By now, you know that I'm a pretty big Sonic fan. Well, that's not the only thing I'm a fan of. I'm a big fan of Half-Life, and especially Half-Life 2. Now, Half-Life 2 is turning 20. Can't believe that. Again, Half-Life 2 is turning 20, and I'm going to be installing it on Windows XP like it originally came out back in the day. Well, not exactly, because it's not the same. You can't really do it the same way, but let's go ahead and dive into that together. So yeah, Half-Life 2 got delayed because of the infamous beta leak and Valve hack that happened, but we finally got it. I had actually pre-ordered it. I have my original Electronic Boutique pre-order tags right here, receipts and everything like that. And I ended up picking up the collector's edition right here. This was day one collector's edition. It also came with Half-Life Source and Counter-Strike Source, which was really cool. But yeah, I had pre-ordered it. Also came with a t-shirt, which is nice. I don't have that t-shirt anymore. 20 years ago, I don't know, I wore the t-shirt and stuff, so it got lost. But one thing that was really cool with the actual box here is there's actually some of the older art, as you can see right here. It also came with a little control reference card right here. Shows you a little bit about, you know, where to get the latest video drivers and things like that. It also came with a mini Prima official hint book, so excerpts from the actual Prima guide, and it even has some really cool artwork on the back there. But yeah, so really cool stuff here. Came right with the collector's edition, and of course the main event came with the Half-Life 2 collector's edition disc. Of course, it came on DVD. You have the DVD disc copy right there. But why is Half-Life 2 so special to me? Well, Half-Life 1 was really a big breakthrough game as far as combat, as far as first-person shooter genre. But Half-Life 2 was really big because it continued the narrative storyline of Half-Life 1. Of course, Gordon Freeman, the actual, you know, hero of the story that you're actually embodying. But the actual gameplay itself, gameplay and cutscenes and everything happens first person. It happens within your own body, and you get to actually be a part of the actual narrative, which was hugely unique. But also the really cool thing about it was the unique puzzles. And again, that goes for both Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2. But Half-Life 2 really pushed the boundaries with the physics engine, with the way that objects operated in water, and how you can stack them and break them and use them against your enemies. Specifically with things like traps and the gravity gun. So Half-Life 2 really spawned this huge modding community, and everything from Gary's mod, which is still big today, of course, in popular media. But you have Counter-Strike, of course, was a big, you know, sequel that came out. Counter-Strike Source came out with the release of this. There's just tons, Day of Defeat Source, tons of different games that were based on the Source engine. And because the Source engine was easier than ever to modify, a lot of people actually got into it and started to create games for it. And you end up seeing things like Portal come out because of the modding community. That being said, the biggest thing about Half-Life 2 back then really was that it was one of the first games to require Steam to install. So basically you took your CD key, it was on the front of here, and I've already used it 20 years ago, so if you can find it, whatever. And it's required, it was absolutely required in order to install and play the game originally. Now, there's ways around it with slightly later releases where you can run Half-Life, but the problem is Steam always updates, right? Steam is always updating. Now, older versions of Windows are no longer supported by newer versions of Steam. The big problem with that is games that you register and are requiring Steam to actually play and install and be able to use, you cannot use them on original hardware, at least unmodified. So truly, I really wish I could just pop this disc in and install it and then play the game. You can install it, which is interesting, but immediately it launches Steam, and yeah. And it also requires Steam to decrypt the encrypted game files in there. That was a big thing about this, where, hey, can't you just get around Steam and just launch it? Later releases of Half-Life 2, you can actually, there's a way that you can launch Half-Life 2 without, but I do have a copy of Half-Life 2 that has been patched. It's the retail version that's been patched so that it does not require Steam. And I'll go ahead and put the links below of where I found that. There's a few different places that you can kind of get some hints of how to run Half-Life 2. You do have to have a legit copy. I personally say just buy it off of Steam if you don't already have it, and play the modern version because you get a lot of different updates for it. But there's some unique things that have been patched and updated out of the original one. Slight engine tweaks, and I'm not going to say really content, but there's been a lot of updates that changed the way the original game plays. So we're going to go ahead and install this on Windows XP, patched by Dell Dimension Windows XP machine. It's got a Pentium 4 in it, and I'm going to go ahead and put all the specs on the screen right here so we can go ahead and dive into it. And yeah, Windows XP was a really great operating system to be able to run games from that time period. Usually a lot of games would be running and compatible with Windows 98 XP and sometimes Windows 2000, like you had Quake 3 Arena and things like that that would run on it. But anyways, let's go ahead and install it. So I've got the disk image here, and again, you can download the disk image from kind of where I pointed to, but you technically have to legally own the game on Steam or a box copy. Thankfully, my Windows XP machine has USB, and I was able to bring this file over. ISO file, I can go ahead, it's a disk image file, so I could burn it to a DVD, but newer versions of Windows can actually natively open up these ISO files and run them, but back in XP days, they couldn't natively do that. So I'm going to go ahead and mount this disk on here, this disk image. So I'm basically saying, hey, let's go ahead and tell the computer that I'm putting in a disk in a disk drive. It thinks I have an extra disk drive. And as you can see here, we've got the Half-Life 2 install screen right here. So visit or install Half-Life 2, visit the Half-Life 2 website, visit Valve website. Clearly I have not connected this computer to the internet. So ooh, yeah, let's sign up for the for the internet. Okay. Well, it actually links to, if you're running this on a internet connected machine, it actually points to the Half-Life 2 page on the archive.org as well. So you can do that. I'm not internet connected on this machine at all, and I probably don't recommend anybody that has Windows XP machines connect them to the internet at the moment, at least not right out of the box. You should probably install some safeguards for you. So there's plenty of guides on how to do that. So this is where we go ahead and click on the disk, and we can click on the website to visit the at that time accurate Half-Life 2 website from Web Archive. So on the disk, it'll actually route you to the Web Archive, where you can see what the website looked like back in the day. You could go ahead and click on the home, click on the overview of the website itself to see a little bit about the game and the characters and whatnot, and the backstory, a little bit about the news. I believe this was 2005-ish that this was pointing back to. So a little bit about some of the news, the updates that came out for Steam and for the games and whatnot. But also some of the media as well, some of the pictures, screenshots, some of the video, concept art, things like that that were posted on their site. And from there, you could visit the Valve website as it existed back in, I believe, 2004, 2005. You can see about the team there, which is I think about 50 people at that time, 50 to 100 people. You can also look at their current projects at that time, which is very interesting. They didn't really have a whole lot, and Steam is listed at the bottom, so it's one of their newer projects at that time. And then you could actually go ahead and look at different other aspects of that website, about Valve itself, what other people are saying about Valve. Yeah, very, very cool little throwback. So it gives you a little bit more of a sense about what it was like to install Half-Life 2 at that time. And of course, you can actually go to the Sierra Technical site as well, which is essentially like if you had an issue with installing Half-Life 2, a technical issue, you could go there, call them, you can look up some FAQs there. Yeah, it was very, very useful at the time, of course, in the early days of the internet. We're going to go ahead and hit install Half-Life 2. Alright, we're going to hit next. After this conversion process, your computer will need to be connected to the internet to play any Steam games. If you do not have an internet connection, press cancel to exit this installer. Otherwise, click next. Then it says, yep, you want to install and subscribe to Steam, and here's the terms and conditions. And we've spoken in the past about terms and conditions, about licensing, about controlling the licensing, and saying, basically Valve saying, hey, you don't actually own a copy of this game, you're only basically leasing it for as long as we can support it, and as long as we allow you to do that. So clearly the terms and conditions of Steam don't allow me to run this on XP anymore, just because you have to run this with Steam, and Steam isn't compatible with XP. So but anyways, I'm going to go ahead and go down. I accept licensing. I am 13 years of age or older. You could either do different modem speeds. At that time, I had a 56K modem, and that was painful to run Steam on. It was really, you'd be letting that update overnight pretty much. But we're on LAN T1 grader. Cool. And it's going to install in the normal program files Valve Steam. Just going to let it go. Yes. Put shortcuts. So this is what it would normally look like. This is strongly recommend that you exit all other programs. And yep, so it was co-published by Sierra, Vivendi Universal at the time. Sierra was a big publisher for a lot of computer games and software, and they published the original Half-Life as well. Again, more license terms and conditions. And then this allows us to install all three aspects of the Collector's Edition: Half-Life 2, Counter-Strike Source, and Half-Life 1 Source, which there are problems with Half-Life 1 Source, but I really do enjoy that because it's so different. It just feels different. It feels like a different game. SEP has determined that you have DirectX version 9.0b or greater installed on your machine and will not attempt to update it. Good. Click the back button to re-enter the installation information, or click cancel to exit. So we're ready to install. We're going to go ahead and install this on the computer. And normally, again, it'd be running off of the DVD, so depending on the speed of your DVD player, it would be really fast or really slow, and of course your hard drive. Yeah, so I think we're doing pretty good here. But yeah, this is pretty much the install process for Half-Life 2 back in the day. While we're installing that, just going through the receipt. So basically, let's see, this was so I put $5 down back in October of 2004, and then I got the protection, the $3 protection for that they push on you, but also the game cost $80, so it was $79.99 US dollars, and I put $5 down. So basically that was sales tax back then. But yeah, so EB Games, time it was converted from a Babbage's, which was at least there locally was a big PC retailer. So converted from a Babbage's and then brought over to an EB Games, but that's where I went to buy a lot of my PC games was Babbage's in that area. So yeah, so $80 for the collector's edition. I think it was $50 for the regular edition of the game, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it wasn't 60, it was definitely 50. And I was like, man, I'm a big Half-Life fan, so I had to get the collector's box. But yeah, so if I go into, I got the little official hint book right here. And I do not actually have the guide myself, the full guide. I wish I did, but this was kind of good enough for me. I thought it was really cool. And then they talk about some of the creatures that were in the game. And again, actually, the Hydra thing that's on the left-hand side there is actually something that was in the beta and the trailers, but I don't think it was actually in the actual game. So interesting stuff. Some artwork that they have in here, showing a little bit about the ant lions and the artwork and the actual normal maps and how they went through and designed everything. And then of course they actually have some advertisements in the back. They have some artwork, things like that. City 17 artwork. This was such a big deal, and there's a lot that is covering kind of the history of Half-Life 2, so I don't really want to go too much into it. But man, that cliffhanger ending was just like, it was torture. And if you haven't played it, definitely go ahead and play it. Play that and then play episode 1 and episode 2 after that. And then I apologize if you get to end of episode 2 and you want more, definitely play Half-Life Alyx if you haven't played that either. So I highly recommend playing Half-Life 2. I'm going to show a little bit of gameplay once we get into here, but yeah, there's a reason why 20 years on, it's definitely had a large impact on my on the way that I look at video games, and the way that I look at art, and the way I look at storytelling and problem solving. And as we just finished the installation, I'm gonna go ahead and, oh, here we go. So this actually was, again, this is very accurate. This is the Steam installer of the time. Steam kind of had like a green overlay. Find and play the latest Valve games, find your friends, find the best servers, get automatic updates, chat with friends. Company in town that was doing something like this at all was Microsoft with Xbox Live. You had other services like GameSpy, which, as you can see, I have GameSpy Arcade actually on the desktop here on the left hand side, which was kind of similar in a way, in a very, very light way, but Steam was trying to be the place to games, the platform for games. And they were really pushing the boundaries, as well as Microsoft was pushing the boundaries for Xbox Live and the way that everything was being run on console with online multiplayer and connecting with lobbies and chat. So for here, I can't really do much. First of all, I'm not connected to the internet. You'll not be able to use Steam until you can connect to the internet. Yep. So I'm not going to launch Steam again, but we have our Counter-Strike source, Half-Life 2, and Half-Life source icons. So let me go ahead and double click. Oh yeah. You got Valve guy, which that's evolved over the years too. All right. Launching Half-Life 2 for the first time on Windows XP. And funny enough, I'm going to keep the resolution pretty much the same. So I didn't go over the requirements. The minimum system requirements was a 1.2 gigahertz processor, 256 megabytes of RAM, DirectX 7 graphics cards. Recommended is a 2.4 gigahertz processor, 512 megabytes of RAM, or half a gigabyte of RAM, DirectX 9 graphics card, same Windows, same hard drive specs. So as you can see, the minimum requirements and the recommended requirements, yeah, you couldn't run this thing at a very, very high resolution, especially compared to now. But if I go into options here, again, you got the normal options, keyboard, mouse. If I go to advanced, turn on developer console, which I always do. Mouse filter, sensitivity, no, I'm going to keep that all the same. This one can go a little bit higher. I think it's 1600 by 1200, but I'm not going to push it. I'm just going to keep it at this regular resolution. Yes, it does support out-of-the-box widescreen and some more advanced options here. It recommends medium model detail, low texture detail. I'm gonna do medium. Simple reflections. Let's do reflect world. I don't know how much I'm gonna actually. This is recommend versus. I'm gonna pump it up a little bit. See how badly it runs. I'm gonna hit OK. Not too bad.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine.
Not pretty good.
Not that I wish to imply you have been sleeping on the job. No one is more deserving of a rest, and all the effort in the world would have gone to waste until... well, let's just say your hour has come again. The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. So wake up, Mr. Freeman. Wake up and smell the ashes.
Yeah. I could probably pump up the graphics a little bit more here. Maybe a little bit. But no, I'm going to keep it kind of authentic.
This is my third transfer this year.
Let me see if I can bring up at least the textures. Let's do model and texture detail. Reflect world. This resolution should be fine.
Well,
yeah, it's not too bad.
End of the line.
It's running pretty well at 800 by 600 resolution.
Welcome to City 17. You have chosen or been chosen to relocate.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. It's a little bit darker on my monitor, but I see that it's pretty good on the screen there.
Administration here in the citadel so thoughtfully provided by our benefactors.
But yeah, this
proud to call City 17
was very innovative at the time. Again, you know, the simple things of having just trash everywhere that you can walk around and pick up. That was big. You know, it allowed you to explore the game, allowed you to interact with the world, and that was pretty big. I mean, I think Doom 3 was the only other game of the time that really allowed you to do something like that, be able to interact with the world. Granted, that one pushed the graphics cards quite a bit, while this one was really meant to... Yeah, so Doom 3 was probably the only other game at the time, other than maybe... Crisis was a little bit later, I believe so. Where it, you know, was really pushing the graphics. It was... And this game was really meant to be, with the source engine, really meant to be scalable. So you can run it on... You know, at the time, a potato. It wasn't all, you know, not as meager as it was now. Like, you still had to have a decent machine, but to run it well. But yeah. But I mean, also the facial animations on the NPCs were really great. I mean, you saw the beginning with G-Man in the cutscene there. You can open up any locker, pick up stuff. Yeah, it's kind of cool because they had lockers in the beginning area of the first Half-Life, so at the start to make it familiar with people that were playing Half-Life, but also just, you know, the lighting was really innovative at the time. And yeah, there's they made some changes around here to some of the layout. I think from the
I'm working up the nerve to go on.
yeah. But yeah, this is so this is the original version of Half-Life 2 running on Windows XP machine live here. I've got my ball mouse. Oh, he's giving me instructions. I can pick this up and toss it at him, and then he beats me up. No good. Tells you to go. But the audio design too was also very, very good for the time. It showed off the engine and just the ambiance. You know, that was something that was very powerful. Again, with the storytelling between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2. The one thing that is obviously better on the more modern iterations of Half-Life 2's engine updates, and just by benefit of playing on a newer computer with solid state and everything like that, the loading times.
About that beer I owed you. It's me, Gordon. Barney from Black Mesa. Hey, sorry for the scare. I had to put on a show.
Introducing you to the characters that were in the original Half-Life and here to reprise their role and guide you through the introduction area. Dr. Kleiner. But yeah, so if you haven't played Half-Life 2, play it.
She would have a better idea how to get him here.
Oh, as long as he stays away from checkpoints, we should be okay. Listen, I gotta go, Doc. We're taking enough chances as it is.
Very well. And, Gordon, good to see you.
Okay, Gordon. You're gonna have to make your own way to Dr. Kleiner's lab. Oh, man, that's what I was afraid of. Get in here, Gordon, before you blow my cover. Pile up some stuff to get through that window and keep going till you're in the plaza. I'll meet up with you later.
And I love how it actually, using this, you know, you got a little bit of pressure. Oh man, they're chasing me. They're chasing me. It tells you E to pick up an object. So it tells you to go up here and you fall and you break a destructible object. And you can pick up other objects. Oops. And it's like, well, where do I go? And that was the other thing about Valve storytelling that's really, really powerful, is that they a lot of times communicate things instead of using words. They'll just use visual design and design elements to guide the person to the next area and where they kind of want people to go. So as you can see, this is a pretty dark area. There's a light next to a door. It illuminates the door and it invites you. So they use that type of storytelling and those types of mechanics to make it so that it's really powerful stuff. You're figuring things out on your own, but they're also guiding you and telling you their intended way. So again, there's a light in here and it wants us to go over here. And this is where we had the first loading area. And we'll see how bad the loading is. I remember the loading being not amazing. Oh, okay, that wasn't too bad. That wasn't too bad. On my original machine, it was probably 30 seconds or more. But again, you know, we go up the stairs, and now we're in the room. Oh, he wants us to pick up the can. Throw it. So I'm going to throw it. Oop. Ah! Ah! Uh-oh. But yeah, then it leads you to a bigger room, and depending on everything, I mean, the light is coming in, setting a really neat mood. Everything's just kind of dark and dirty and dingy, and yeah. You can interact with people, and they're just kind of sticking to themselves. And again, you can interact with people. Take a chance. Whoops. Yeah, don't want to interact with him. And it kind of says, okay, well, now feel free to explore. Find your own way. So most of the time they give you those elements of guiding you around, but they want to give you the opportunity here to explore this world. Yeah, it's very, very powerful stuff. And this is what really hooked me in to playing the original Half-Life 2. Obviously, Half-Life 1 before it brought me in through their visual storytelling and through being in the middle and the thick of things. So definitely, as a big fan of Half-Life 2, I'd say, again, if you haven't played it, go ahead and play it. But, you know, even if you're like in your 20s now, you may have not played this when you were a lot younger. So highly recommend playing it, even though there are some dated elements still in there. There are. I will admit that. There are some levels, when I say levels, there's some sections that are not my favorite, you know, but seriously, get through. If you get through the story, if you just pull through, it's absolutely worth it. And who knows, maybe they'll announce something soon because of the 20th anniversary. I know there's a fan ray tracing project that Nvidia just announced, or just shown another trailer for, and that's coming out soon. But probably 15 years since there was anything mainline Half-Life story out, except for Half-Life Alyx, which you have to have VR headset on, I think, unless you have a mod for it. But that being said, yeah, so we just installed Half-Life 2 on a Windows XP machine. Granted, that's the original experience that you would have had installing it, other than the fun parts of using early days Steam, 2004 Steam, that was kind of clunky, kind of awkward, downloading updates, unpacking the game, decrypting the game. That was there was actually, when you go to run it, it would say decrypting game files, and that was early Steam games did that. So that was pretty much the experience, minus the fun parts of signing up for Steam and discovering the new world of Steam, that where you can connect with your friends and play with friends and throw toilets at your friends with Half-Life 2 Deathmatch and all that good stuff. Counter-Strike Source was also very, very good, in my opinion. And then a little bit later, you had Team Fortress 2 that came out a little bit after that. And yeah, but anyways, thank you so much for coming on this journey with me to rediscover Half-Life 2 and just celebrate it on its 20th anniversary. The story-driven mechanics of the game, using puzzle elements, using interactivity with different physics objects. I hope they continue that legacy in whatever they do next with Half-Life, if they do something next with Half-Life. I think there's enough momentum in the series and enough fans that they're still working on content. We'll see what happens. I'm hopeful. I'm always hopeful for Half-Life 3. Hashtag Half-Life 3. But yeah, that being said, you know, thank you again for coming on this journey. What do you think of Half-Life 2? Is Half-Life 2 also in your upper echelon of favorite games of all time, like it is for me? Do you think Half-Life 2 is overrated? Have you never played Half-Life 2? Thank you again. Appreciate you being here, and I'll see you on the next video. Game on.